Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I am, we are on a road trip, and as it turns out, yeah, Lane says hi, misinformation says hi. She's camera shy today. She's putting on makeup because she's got to get into a, conference this afternoon. So anyway, I'm sort of tagging along on this trip, and our son is back there who is also hiding. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was, coincidentally enough, on this road trip, we are going to roll for 50,000 miles. Like right as we're doing the trip. Probably not today, but in the next couple of days we'll hit the 50,000 mile mark. So I wanted to do a real quick 50,000 mile recap of the Model Y, and I've got her phone, which has got a few cheat sheets just so I can remember my numbers and things like that correctly. So first of all, almost exactly 2.5 years. It was December 13th when we picked up the car of 2020, and obviously June 13th would be the exact 2.5 years, but close enough. So we'll call it exactly 2.5 years. As that turns out, that is exactly 20,000 miles per year that we've driven on this car, which is a little bit on the shocking side. I think normally we're more like 15,000, but we've actually liked this car so much that we have taken it all over the place and done very long road trips, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But clearly there has been a very positive response to this car in general, which is why we keep driving it all the time. So one thing I will say that's a little bit on the downside for the car, and I think it's two things. Number one is that it's heavy because it's got batteries, but number two, because it has really, really good acceleration, so it's an awful lot of fun to use that, and it's got all-wheel drive. So it's got, two motors, so it torques all four wheels when you start up quickly, is that it eats tires. So the first set of tires, which were Continentals that came with the vehicle, we got right about 30,000 miles with. The second set of tires, unfortunately, we got Bridgestones, and they were kind of more like racing tires, and they didn't really have a mileage warranty, which I wasn't really informed of until at 14,500 miles, the tires were bald, and we were like, what in the world is going on with that? By the way, we're back in South Carolina. If you hate the road noise, blame it on South Carolina. They apparently just do not know how to take care of their roads. But anyway, so it ate the tires in 14,500 miles, which was really disappointing because, of course, they're expensive. And then we just got a set of Hankook Ion Evo tires, which are brand new EV-specific tires. So, in fact, we're actually right around 5,000 miles right now. Well, it should be fairly soon that we'll need to rotate the tires for the first time. They look like they're wearing well. I can't believe we've already put 5,000 miles on the tires. It's just ridiculous how much we drive in this car. So there you go. Anyway, so let's see. The first thing, obviously, over-the-air software updates have been fantastic. The car is constantly getting safer. It's getting better. It is a better car than when we bought it, which is an experience that is completely new to us with Tesla, because every other car we've pretty much ever bought has just been the same car until the day we sold it or the day it died or something. So there hasn't been any upgrades to the car, but of course now, yeah, South Carolina roads. Anyway, so we just haven't had that experience, and it's been really wonderful. And of course, specifically the full self-driving beta, which is currently driving the car. Of course, I have one hand on the wheel at all times, but I'm just monitoring the car, and it's cooking along at highway speeds, no problem at all, and having a good time. And of course, full self-driving beta is, what are you going to say about that? It's a fantastic piece of software. Still, Lane is still like, she's like, it's still beta. It still has issues. This morning it decided it wanted to go into a turn lane on a back road instead of straight, and oops, so she had to jerk it back out of there, and so there's issues with it still, but it is pretty darn amazing, and especially considering on the highway. You want to say something off camera? No, she's just being...
I will give it its props. It is pretty awesome, and I miss not having it on my new Tesla. So,
yeah, we're going to get to the Model 3 actually later in this, but yes, we also have a Model 3 now, and we just kind of wanted a city driving car, and didn't want to spend the extra money for full self-driving. And if we ever need it, I'm going to talk about this also, we'll just subscribe to it for a period of time. Anyway, but she definitely misses it, so it is actually getting to the point in the early days of beta. When we first had it, it did not pass the spouse test. She was like, turn that thing off, do not drive with it on, and now she drives with it on and gets frustrated when she's not able to to utilize full self-driving. So there you go. It's made leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds.
And the car is way better than it used to be. And wow, I don't know what's going on the other direction, but they are in a big bunch of traffic right there. So it's a better car than it was when we bought it, and not only the full self-driving, but also just the safety features. There have been a bunch of upgrades to the way that the airbags deploy and to preconditioning the car. If, God forbid we got into an accident, the car would know about it ahead of time using the vision system in the vehicle and would pre-tension the seatbelts and take steps to deploy the airbags properly, all of that kind of stuff. So there is a lot of safety. Not only was this car the safest car when we bought it, now it's even safer than it was when we bought it, which again, you just don't get with other cars, which is just fantastic. It's got a very tight, sporty feel. It's very, very fast acceleration, even though we've got the long-range version of the car, and that's amazing too. Interestingly enough, as I said, we got the Model 3 as well, and it's just the long range, so it's only got one motor. So by metrics, it doesn't accelerate as quickly as this car, but in a weird way, it actually kind of feels like it accelerates faster. And I think it's just because it's lower to the ground, and it's just, I was rather surprised, honestly. I thought the 3 and the Y would drive almost identically, but the 3 actually drives better for me because I'm more of a sports car zipping around kind of person. So the car, for all it is, and it's a fantastic car, it is an SUV. It's a crossover, so it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more boxy, you sit up higher, and all of that's very comfortable for getting in and out of the car. Super practical car. You can put 8-foot lumber in the car, run it right up through here, and it fits in, and you can close the rear tailgate, which is fantastic. So it's an incredibly practical car for many, many different circumstances, but it does surprisingly it lack a little bit of the sportiness of the Model 3. So if that's all you really want is something that's super sporty feeling, you might want to look at the Model 3 as opposed to this, also because it's a little bit cheaper. So that's something that's worth talking about. So also the other piece of that is it could have to do a little bit with the builds of the vehicle. So this is a 2020 model or 2021 model. We bought it in December of 2020, but anyway, it has the rear casting is a single piece casting, but the front casting is multiple components. And so I have a feeling if I was driving a Model Y now, the current one that was built currently right now, with the single piece front casting, that it would feel significantly more like a little bit tighter, a little bit more sporty, I guess, than the version that we have. So yeah, there's pluses and minuses, but it is incredibly fun to drive, and it's still, we've gotten so spoiled. We're so used to just zipping out in traffic. There's never traffic where you're like, oh, I can't accelerate fast enough to get out in that traffic if I need to. But it's still, when we drive new people around, they're like, whoa, this is really, really fast. And so we've sort of gotten spoiled and used to it, but it is still a really punchy car, and it accelerates really quickly and handles really great, all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's also almost a perfect size car. It's fantastic, like I said, for lumber. It holds a ton of stuff. We've got a child, 2 adults, a bunch of junk, a bunch of suitcases, all sorts of things in the car, and didn't even touch the frunk. So we have tons more space if we needed to for doing a road trip like this. No big deal. Of course, the price point has also gotten much more appealing over time. For a while, it went up and up and up in price, but now it's come back down again. And of course, it's eligible, the Model Y is eligible for the full $7,500 tax credit. And on top of that, the relative price with inflation and all of that stuff has been going down. And so the Model Y is actually cheaper than the average selling price of a vehicle right now. So no wonder it's the #1 selling vehicle model in the world right now. That's like kind of a no-brainer, considering, although it is, again, it's still an expensive car. So it is a little bit surprising, but also the fact that inflation has sort of caught up with the car. I think people look at the dollar amount that the car costs, and so they're like, oh, look, it went up and then it came back down, and it's more or less the same as it was in 2020 when we bought the car. But inflation has had a big uptick in the price of just about everything over the past 2.5 years. And so the effective cost of this car has been dropping, and that means that the vehicle is cheaper than it was when we bought it, which is really, really cool. You know, by not by dollar amount, but by effective dollar amount when you include inflation for the past 2.5 years. So it's getting less expensive, and it qualifies for the $7,500 tax credit in the United States and some other tax credits in other countries. So it's expensive still. It's, you know, it has always been sort of in the BMW, Mercedes competitive class, but right now it's actually cheaper than those and trending down towards more mass market vehicles. So it isn't as effectively expensive as it was when we purchased it 2.5 years ago, which is pretty darn amazing. So very, very appealing, and amazing road trip car. You can pack a ton of stuff in it, of course, and you can sleep in it. We have actually done that before. We have a blow-up mattress. It's actually, the link is in the description if you're interested, but you just plug it into the 12 volt in the back, blow it up, and sleep in the back, and it works really well. As long as you're not more than 6 feet tall. If you are, it's probably going to be a little bit compressed, but if you're 6 feet or shorter, it will work really, really well. And of course, full self-driving is completely a killer app for, I should probably say something different. It's an awesome app for doing road trips, because on long road trips, as you're driving, you don't have to be nearly as concerned about focusing on the road the whole time. I could do a video like this where I talk to all of you guys and don't have to be completely focused on the road. I'm monitoring the car, of course, but the car is also driving itself, so it's really amazing. The supercharging experience is great. There are way more superchargers than there were 2.5 years ago when we first started driving the car. The uptime is amazing. We just stopped at one in Orangeburg at a Spinks gas station, and it has a solar roof. It had a squeegee to wipe the windshields. So, you know, it's like renewably powered. It's pretty cool. I mean, that was a really, really nice one. But the 250 kilowatt charging, the fast charging, the fact that they're all over the place, the fact that they are constantly up and running and not broken like most of the other vehicle EV charging stations are, all of that kind of stuff makes the vehicles very, very appealing for doing road trips. And I wouldn't even consider doing a road trip in a gas car anymore. Even if we still owned one, it would not be the thing that we would do. So as far as Tesla service is concerned, so we did have one little funky issue with the I think it was the passenger side window. After we purchased the car, it was kind of rolling up and down very, very slowly, and we were like, it's still working but not working effectively. And we got in touch through the Tesla app. They came out in a couple of weeks because it wasn't anything urgent, and they came to our driveway and they just fixed it in the driveway. And the guy even showed me like how the seat worked and everything, because I was asking him how the lumbar support worked and all that. So there was something in the seat too, and I think it was the lumbar support, like the little airbag had gotten flipped upside down. So he took it out and showed me how it worked and everything, and I was like, wow, that's really, really cool. So anyway, there's lots and lots of very awesome stuff that the service has done. I know some people have had bad experiences with it, but we've had really good experience with it. The one other experience we had with Tesla service was an emergency road service when we blew a flat in our original tires. And it did take a while because it was a Sunday and we were kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But they sent a tow truck and it towed us about 30 miles maybe, I think, to the Costco, where we actually had new tires waiting for us. Just because it turned out that we were actually going to buy new tires. But even though the tires were completely dead at the end of their lives, they took us for free, no problem at all, and it was really, really great. So we've had excellent experiences with Tesla service at this point, and a big thing. So okay, so in terms of comparison to a gas car, at this point we would have had at 7,500 miles each, and around about $75 each, we would have had 6 oil changes right now in a gas car, and that would have been some, and plus one, what do they call those? Just regular service at like 25 or 30,000 miles, where you get the normal service stuff. So at a guess, it would have been somewhere around $800 we would have spent on service. The only thing that we've had to do, aside from replace tires, is put windshield washer fluid in the windshield washer thing. So that's it. So basically, you know, discounting the tires, which are going to more or less be equivalent between the car is a little bit faster on this car than on a gas car. But anyway, you can say that we've saved a chunk of money and time and inconvenience doing oil changes and service calls and things like that. Charging is much cheaper than gas. We would have driven at 30 miles a gallon, we would have driven 1,667 gallons of gas. And so at a rough estimate, given the cost in the past couple of years, and it goes up and down a lot, so this is just a rough estimate, but around $5,800 in gasoline that we would have spent fueling the car if this was a gas car with 30 miles per gallon average gas stuff. So we have instead put approximately 16,667 kilowatt hours into the car to charge it up. That's a rough guess given how many miles we generally get driving, how big the battery pack is, all of that kind of stuff. And if we charged all of that at home at 4.7 cents per kilowatt hour, it would have cost $783. As it turns out, as an estimate, we've done around 30,000 miles of our 50,000 miles on longer road trips, which means we've used a lot of supercharging. And as it turns out, we got 1 year free when we bought the car, and then we've had a bunch of loot box miles that we've used. So my best guess is we have only spent $313 thus far to charge this car. So going from $5,800 to put gas in the car to, and look at that, it just slowed right down for a truck that cut us off, so really, really nice. Anyway, from $5,800 to about $313 over the past 2.5 years to charge the car as opposed to fuel it. That is a gigantic savings right there. If you don't think that's a savings, that's a big savings. Anyway, and then like I said, we've loved this car so much for road trips. We did an experiment. We drove down to Boca Chica and Austin pretty soon. I guess it was maybe 6 months after we bought the car, and we liked it so much that we've just kept putting on long road trips. And of course going to my parents' house a lot and things like that. But we put somewhere around 30,000 miles on the vehicle on road trips. And so the experience has been marvelous. And I guess the best way to put this is we liked it so much we bought another one. So we traded in our Mazda CX-5. Yeah, there we go. And that was Lane. She was like, I want another Tesla. And we did look at other cars. We looked at a Bronco. We tried to look at a Volkswagen ID4, but it was really hard to find one. But in the end, she was just like, nah, nothing's as good as a Tesla. So we ended up buying that. And I think if you don't believe us for this 50,000 mile review, Chamath Palihapitiya on the All In podcast, I'm sure everybody has seen that clip about 100 times at this point, but he just raves about the Model Y and says how the Tesla Model Y team just absolutely nailed it with the car, and he pretty much called it a perfect vehicle. And he's, money is no object for a person like him, right? He's definitely got the funds available to purchase a Model X Plaid if he wants, and he has a Model X like Founders Edition serial number 13 or something like that. So I mean, he's got some very, very high-end Teslas, but he absolutely loved the Model Y, and I think that says a lot. It's a car that a lot of people can afford now, and obviously when the Tesla Model 2 comes out, whatever it's going to be called, a lot more people will be able to afford it. But in the meantime, it's hard to see how any vehicle is going to surpass or supplant the Model Y as the most popular vehicle in the world, because the car is just so darn practical and so much fun to drive and so good on long road trips and so relatively inexpensive to own after you purchase it, and the resale value is still very, very good on the car. There's just a lot of positives about it, and it's just an amazing vehicle.
Is that all vehicles? It's the number one selling?
Yeah, it's the number one selling car in the world.
Out of all vehicles?
All vehicles. Electric, yeah,
Wow.
right. She didn't know. She hasn't been watching my videos lately.
Wow,
Yeah,
sorry, I'm
yeah.
busy.
It made it in Q1 of 2023, but for the first 3 months of this year. Yeah,
That's impressive.
So go Model Y. We're very happy to be in this car. Go Tesla for making the Model Y, and of course go Tesla for continuing to improve the Model Y after we purchase it. That's just awesome. We love the car, and thank you all so much, and everybody have a lovely day. I will be traveling, so I'm going to be videoing from all over the place, but anyway, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, go to Twitter, follow me, do all of that kind of good stuff. And in the meantime, we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.